Hey, everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live, headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey, this is Tyler Jones, and you're listening to the Element Podcast. What's happening, Alma Woods people? We're coming to you from a very muggy, humid, nasty, rainy, but also sunshiny and very blistering hot day here in East Texas. I just do not like this day at all. KC, what say you?
It is a strange situation we're in. Like, I was planning on trying to go dove hunting this evening, and it was sunny, and then it was monsoon, and then it was sunny again, and then there happened to be a monsoon to the west. It's like, what's going on?
Dude, when the sun hit me directly earlier for like the first time all day, and it was like 2:30 p.m., rage. I was like, this is about the hottest I've been in as far as I can remember. Like, I mean, so much humidity. It's just like off and on rain, which I would essentially. I mean, I would assume that that's just because it's like literally on the brink of rain all day with the humidity.
That's what it is. The humidity builds enough to where it actually can fall from the sky. It happened to us like 3 or 4 times today. It was weird. But it's a big change from that Montana climate that we got used to there for a while.
Yeah, I know. And you're getting ready to go experience some more of that.
I'm ready. Yeah, I'm going to go to Colorado and go elk hunting pretty soon. So I'm actually in one of my elk hunting shirts today because it doubles as a dove shirt. So pretty much scent control is, of course, a thing in all like big species. You know, doves not so much, but like. Elk, if they're going to smell you, they're going to smell you. It's about what I figured out. Like, you just got to play the wind. Like, that's it. You know, like, it's not about scent cones, because skint cones, do you like that?
Skint, yeah. Scun.
So, we'll just take an audience poll. If you've ever used the word scun to be the past tense form of skin,
like when you
skinning catfish,
or catfish,
raise your hand right now. I don't know if there's very many of you raising your hand.
Neither of us in this vehicle right now.
No, but our good buddy Garrett Long in Montana's raising his hand proudly.
You know who else is?
Brian Murphy. Mr. QMA. So don't trust that guy. He spent time in Australia.
That's right. Man,
Scun.
2 of the smartest guys I know use the word
crazy person
scun.
word.
Man,
what is that?
I don't even know. We probably shouldn't even tell the whole story, but that was definitely a fun night.
Yes.
Of hearing guys talk about scunning animals.
Yeah. Yeah, but on that trip, we stopped by and talked to the whitetail leader at Sitka Gear. And that's Derrick, and that's who we're going to talk to today in this podcast.
Yeah. And, man, it was fun. I've probably mentioned this before already, but, you know, he's a family guy, just real down-to-earth, seems like, and kind of people I like to hang out with, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a good little interview for sure.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, is that because you're wearing Sitka right now.
Mm-hmm.
You said your elk shirt, but your dove shirt too. So is that the Sitka sunflower pattern that they're coming out with?
This is actually, it's millet, I think.
Millet.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
So no consonants. Or is that
Sitka sunflower?
Right? No alliteration. We'll just use that.
Yeah, no alliteration. Maybe, that Sitka sunflower would be pretty good.
Yeah, I think it would.
Maybe, I thought you were going to go that route where you'd like to combine two words like dove and elk, so it'd be Delks. Is that your Delk shirt?
That definitely could have happened.
Yeah.
But it didn't. Anyway, so you got rained out of dove.
Mm-hmm.
I got to hunt dove the first afternoon, I think, wasn't it? Saturday.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was opening day afternoon.
Dang.
And I just like kind of came to fruition like the night before. I had a buddy who texted me and said, got a Milo field that we can go hunt. And I was like, this is going to be awesome.
This is a mutual friend of ours who didn't text me. So
yeah.
How about
he
that?
He probably will listen to this and feel really bad, hopefully. He needs to. But yeah, he invited me out. So we got a Milo field, everything, probably go in the afternoon because I got a late night or whatever. And so about middle of the day, that next day, he texts me. He's like, hey, let's go, whatever. So me and him and his brother-in-law went. And we get out to this field. I'm like, where's Milo? And this dude just he just completely failed to mention that we weren't hunting the Milo field anymore. Instead, we were hunting a cattle pasture.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, what?
It's less hype.
Yeah, a lot less hype. So I was like, oh, dude, we're not even going to shoot a dove. So we went out into the back of this big pasture, and there was a bunch of like locust trees and stuff like that. And we had his two kids and my son Jet was with me, and it was Jet's first kind of hunting trip, really.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we were sitting out there, and the ants were like crawling up our chairs and eating us and stuff, and we weren't seeing. We saw one dove come over top of who, and he was the man who shall not be named. But he just got pooped on pretty much, and then that was it. So we were kind of bored, and we ended up moving up to the front, and it's like all of a sudden it was like on, dude.
That's cool.
And it was a good little afternoon, man. We ended up with 11 between the three of us. Mm-hmm. I shot 7.
7-11.
I was shooting good, dude. I'm telling you, I hadn't shot like this in a while, and I get a little competitive, but my dad, he can outshoot me still, I think.
Yeah. How many did you clean, Tyler?
I cleaned them all, every single one of them, and I gave them the Slade. Gave them to the guy who shall not be named.
I thought that you had one little birdie that.
Well, I cleaned every single one except for one. I'm sitting. Okay, so yeah, I just want to let y'all know that I only let 2 get by me. So I gotta say that first. But last night we were doing some stuff, and Casey hopped in the truck, and we went and did some stuff, and I was like, dude, sorry it stinks in here. I got this dove vest in here. I guess it's just kind of, bloody and, kind of nasty or whatever. It kind of smells weird and mildewy and whatever else. So anyway, next day, which was today, I hop in the truck and it smells worse. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I'm like, I gotta get this thing out of my truck. I'm going to put it in storage. So I take the vest, and when I pull it out, I'm like, kind of looks like something round in the bottom corner of that vest pocket. And there was a dove in there.
No.
I felt so bad because they're so tasty.
I know,
it's literally
man.
my favorite thing to eat. We ate doves this weekend, too, from last year. And, dude,
You saved doves from last
my
year?
dad did. I don't know what he was thinking.
Kyle's in those long-term investments. That's what he's all about.
We had a good year last year.
Yeah.
But it's literally my favorite treat that I think I can have. It is, to me, it's the best meat that's out there.
Yeah.
And I know
last
a lot
year
of people would disagree.
in Colorado, when Brennan shot the bull, we had dove appetizers.
I remember that.
That's the best meal I've ever had in my life. Elk backstrap steaks and dove popper appetizers.
How do you beat that, dude?
You can't. It's impossible.
Yeah.
That's
it. That was, it was a good weekend, man, for sure. And we're now, this couple days ago when you guys listen to this, will be the day that we released Nameless.
Yeah.
So pretty cool, exciting thing for us, man. The response has been incredible. Thank you guys for all the wonderful comments and just the encouragement, man. It means a lot. It kind of lifts us up going into this season because honestly, we're kind of struggling right now watching all these people hunt all over the U.S.
Kill deer.
I know, and we're just kind of sitting here, and you're actually going to be doing some, elk hunting soon, so maybe that'll be changing after, I guess after you're gone sometime during that trip. I'm probably going to take a trip up to Kansas, so, it's getting close, but we're still sitting here, humid, sweaty, and everything.
Yeah.
So,
No kidding.
If you're in the same boat with us, go watch the Nameless film. It'll get you jacked up, make you feel like it's cold outside, and then you'll walk outside.
And be sure to, like and comment on that video on YouTube. Tell us how much you like it because you like it, but also to show our appreciation of your support. We're going to do a giveaway for YouTube comments. So don't comment because you want to win the stuff, but comment and just know that you can win some stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it should be cool.
Yeah. So the comment, all the comments are going to be in the running to win a Exodus Trek trail camera. Which, man, that's a pretty good prize. Like, how much would we want that camera?
I'm going to go comment a couple times myself. We could use one
cast
more.
And catch won it. Dadgum. Lucky guy.
That's right. That's right.
And then, so also if you share the link on from our Facebook page to your personal, share it on your personal page, you'll be in the running for an Onyx Premium membership, which we gave away 2 of those on last week's episode of the podcast, and only one has been claimed so far. Woo-hoo. So it's kind of like the golden ticket,
Yeah.
it's still kind of out there.
We're going to put a limit on that, like how that's not going to sit around for forever.
That's
so
right. We got to do something with it.
Yeah, like you better have it claimed by the time I get back from Colorado.
That's right.
And make that the deal.
Or he's going to put it in his pocket and
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, go watch Nameless and comment, share, and you'll be in the running for both of those prizes, and maybe you'll win both of them. That'd be awesome. Also, while you're there at YouTube commenting on Nameless, you can check out our Tons of Trout video that released like 2 days before Nameless. And it was just a really cool outline of the trip that we had with the TRCP Media Summit and all those people, and what we did before, which we caught a ton of trout, and then what we did during a little bit, and then we had a awesome trip that they were gracious enough to give us down the Yellowstone guided float trip, and we caught a couple of really nice trout. So that was exciting, and it's a long film. You may have to take it in parts if you really want to watch it all, but there's a lot
tons
of trout. There are tons of trout in it. So anyway, man, Bozeman was awesome, and I'm kind of sad to be back in this heat, but I'm glad to be home and preparing for deer season. And with that said, I think we should get to some deer talk back in Bozeman with Chris Derrick from Sitka Gear. What do you think?
Sounds good.
So, outside of business here at Sitka, who are you? What does that look like?
Well, my name's Chris Derrick, and I do the whitetail product line. So at Sitka, we break it up, and we have specialists that are in big game and waterfowl and whitetail. And whitetail is really where my expertise is. I grew up starting probably in the early teens hunting, and I had a best friend that he's the one that drug me into it. He and I were best friends, and it became just such a huge part of my life. I was so passionate, and so we had property in Alabama, Sylacauga area, and that's really where I started throughout Georgia and Alabama hunting in the southeast, and it's something that I spent my days doing, my weekends. I remember turning 16 and asking my mom, I was like, I'd like to go to Sylacauga, and she was like, you just turned 16, and that was like 4.5 hours from our house. And me and my buddy hopped in the car, and we drove, and we hunted all week down there. And we're 16. I cannot believe I don't think I'd do that with my kids, but she was like, all right, go. Yeah, and we did that. So I turned 16 in October, and towards the end of October, it was the start of the season.
Yeah.
We took off and went.
Yeah.
And you were. When did your friends start pulling you into the hunting spectrum?
I think in middle school is kind of when my buddy Matt and I. He was my best friend, and I remember, our parents would drop us off at one or another's house, and we'd run around with our pellet guns, and and that was like the thing that we did, just shooting.
Yeah,
dude, I shot my pellet gun the other day. Like I still shoot pellet guns. It's so much fun, and I'm pretty hardcore about bow hunting, but I mean, I just can't get over that whole just plinking around with a gun that doesn't kick whatsoever. I think that's just so much fun.
Yeah, not to mention we've got those Eurasian ringneck doves down where we live. That they're not a game species, so you can shoot them whenever. So you can start filling the freezer, pellet by pellet. It's a pretty cool thing to do around the house.
I got to tell you, y'all, a quick story. I got to brag on myself.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so the other night, Kaylee, my wife, and Jet and I were out shooting, and Jet has the Red Ryder. And it can't be shooting like 220 feet per second. I mean, it is slow. And so she was shooting my pellet gun, which has a scope on it. It's pretty nice, probably like $80, $90 pellet gun. Shoots pretty fast, just single shot breakover. And I went down probably about 30 yards, and I put a white Panda Express cup on there. And I put it on top of my bow target. And when I came back, I grabbed Jet's Red Ryder, and I was like, he's 6. And so he's still pretty young, And I was like, hey, watch this. And Kaylee was going to shoot my gun. And so she pulls up. She's got her eye closed over here, and she's looking through my scope. And I pull that Red Ryder up, and I shoot at the I'm going to try to knock it off of there before and I miss or whatever. And so I, cock it or whatever, and got another BB in there, and I could barely see my sight. It was low light. And so I took it and I lined it up on the yellow target, and then I moved it up like a foot and shot, and it just knocked it right before she shot it, knocked it off there. And I was Kentucky so proud of myself.
Man, it's kind of cool, like you have that family aspect, because one of my most vivid memories is from shooting pellet guns with my dad. We were sitting out next to a little barn dominium we'd built when I was like 10. And we've got these plagues of yellow grasshoppers where we live. Like some summers they're terrible. I mean, like eating the screens off the houses, terrible. I mean, bad. And it's probably 50 yards to the telephone pole from this barn dominium. We're sitting inside. My dad's like, watch this. Pumps it like 6 times. Thunk. Knocks this grasshopper off in 50 yards, hands me the gun and says, that's all I got to do. Prove myself.
That's like a mic drop moment.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, you couldn't do that again if you tried. But when I was a kid, I thought my dad was awesome. He can do that. Shoot a grasshopper at 50 yards.
Yeah.
But
you're bringing your kids into this outdoor world quite a bit now recently. I've seen on social media, at least it seems like, and we talked about it a little bit. What does that look like for y'all? I mean, fishing mostly, or?
No, well, I mean, with them, so when we were back in South Carolina recently, my son, he got a pellet gun, and he kind of started down the same path, and it's just really interesting to watch him. I mean, he could spend like 5 hours just plinking stuff outside and just running around, and so he's now 10, and here in Montana, where we are now, is when they can get their apprentice license. So last night I brought home like a 6.5 Creedmoor, and I'm doing the whole muzzle brake thing so it doesn't hurt his shoulder. And so last night I was going over that with him and getting him prepped up. So over the next couple of months, he's going to be transitioning from shooting something, that's just like a 22 or those 22 or 223 calibers into something, that can take down. And, I've told him, look, you're going to get to take your first deer if everything goes right this year. And so we're working him through that path, and then we're going to, he'll get, so he's super excited.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was like, Dad, is that the one I'm going to use? And, and it's just neat because it reminds me, like we talked about when, I'm sure it's something we can all relate to, but he's going to have that same moment. I mean, I'm 5'8", but he's going to, from his standpoint, it's like Superman. That's the way you think of your dad. And I get to bring him in. And then my daughter, she's 8, and she's already asked, hey, when is it my turn? And
That's
you know,
cool.
so she'll come into the fold eventually as well.
Yeah.
But she's more like the caring, loving. So we'll see if it actually
how it
happens.
goes.
It's like my daughter a little bit. She and I are morning people, so we wake up early and go to sleep early, usually, unless we're flying into Bozeman. And the other two, my wife and my son, are night owls. And so I get up every morning and I go out. We live in a very small space right now. We're kind of in between homes. And so I go out and shoot my bow like every morning because I don't have anything to do. It's dark. We're all in the same room basically, you know. And so I'm like, I'm not going to make much noise in here. So I go out, start shooting, and then she comes out usually 20 minutes later or whatever. And she calls them bullets. She wants me to shoot my bullets, you know. But she's super interested in that kind of stuff, you know. But she also, like, when she sees a deer get shot on video, she kind of, like, there has been times when I had to, like, distract her to make her not cry. You know, like I thought she was going to start crying. So, and I'm kind of soft like that too, in all honesty. Like, you know, it's hard for me in certain situations to see a deer die, you know.
I mean, this year we had one of those. I remember, like, you were slightly tore up when we shot a doe this year, early season, you know, just kind of getting out and, you know, doing what you do, get in the stand and see what happens. And this doe, like, he made a great shot on this doe, quartering away, you know, like, what was it, like 22 yards or something like that?
Something like that.
She, like, probably ran 60 or 80 yards, but she wheeled around and ended up, like, passing right at the base of our tree. Mm-hmm. And it was totally
flipped
different.
Around and
it was, you know, normally when they go off and fall or you hear them crash, it's a different thing than, like, when, you know, you watch the animal die, you know. And we were both, like, kind of off taken by it, you know. Not that it was bad or that we felt bad about it, but it's just, it's kind of cool when things get a little more real for you like that, you know, and experiences like that kind of strengthen your bond with the outdoors almost.
Yeah, I think if you don't, if you don't have that, I mean, there might be something kind of wrong with you when you take a look at it. I mean, I remember when I shot my first deer, you know, you kind of have that conflicted feeling, but that's part of the respect that we have for that. I mean, this is something we're doing to not only manage the population, and then also just put food in the freezer. But, you know, I mean, you're still taking a life, and that's just a part of life. I mean, we're a part of the ecosystem. We're not separate from it. So you can either take a look at it from the lens of it's, you know, over here and we shouldn't be a part of it, but that's not reality. Reality is we're a part of this ecosystem, and, you know, we're here. So you know, we can fill our freezers. We can be a, you know, participating part of both protecting it and also harvesting from it.
You know, it's something I had to learn as I got older, truthfully. I mean, I was raised with, you know, a family of outdoorsmen, you know, like we're talking about, you know, raising your kids up. That's how I was raised. But I did a lot of hunting with my granddad because he had more time off than my dad did, you know. And to him, it was just a means to an end. There wasn't a lot of, like, I guess, recognition of the presence of that animal as a living being. You know what I mean? So, like, I killed my first deer when I was 6, and I was a little bit too young to really comprehend what happened, you know. And then it probably took me until I was, like, I guess I was 16 and killed my first buck with a bow, and that's kind of where it hit, you know. Like, I kind of had a little bit more of a concept of, like, what I was really doing, and it was kind of weird. And it's almost, I know it's by law where your son has to start at this age point, you know, but I think it's kind of a good thing, and him and I have talked about this, you know, like there's like the age of accountability, I guess is a good way to say it, you know, where you actually understand that you're taking a life, you know. So
yeah, in our family, I mean, even before, like, I could have had him take a deer, and it doesn't, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. Like, if you take your kid out and they shoot one at 6, there's nothing wrong with that.
I was happy to do it. You know, it was awesome.
Yeah, in our family, we just said, hey, it was the approach we took with Cole was, you know, when you turn 10, something about the double digit. I said, then we'll have the discussion, and if I feel like you're ready, and, you know, we're going to obviously use you know, a rifle for him to take because he's not strong enough with a bow. But I did get him like a little mission, you know, set up, and he goes out there and shoots it all the time. You know, I hung it up and I was like, you have to earn the money to get this. And, you know, he was out there like doing stuff.
And I had to do the same thing. Yeah.
And so he took him almost 6 months, but, you know, I was paying him, breaking down cardboard boxes, throwing them in my truck, and you know, and that's how he was earning money.
Cool. Yeah. So when did you, like, start identifying as a hunter? You know, you can be someone who hunts, but like I feel like for me there was a turning point in my life, like when I decided like, you know, this is who I am. You know, him and I talked about this a while ago actually, like, you know, how to state the question to you, like, what do you do outside of hunting? But you can't. I don't feel like I can answer that because it's a part of my lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess for me, I don't know if there's been a point since when I started, because I think I started later than you did. So I kind of came into it, and then it became like, I feel like in your teens, early teens, mid-teens to like that's kind of where you become and identify who you are.
Yeah.
So at that point in my life is when I started to pick up that, so it just became who I was.
Yeah, sure.
And, you know, there was times when I slowed down, you know, where I moved off and did, you know, other activities, but then it rose back up, you know, like early 20s, I rodeoed for a while. So that like was my like focus, and that's what I did. I'd still go hunt, but that was the big thing during that time period. And then like, you know, mid-20s came back and it started rising, and then now I'm going to be 40 this year, you know. So
I went through the kind of same thing. Like I grew up deer hunting and loved it, you know, and then I did a stint where I worked for the state as a trapper and like didn't get to deer hunt a lot in that time period. But it's kind of like, you know, once something gets deep in you, it's like, you ever seen those, like a tetherball, you know, like you hit it and it just comes back, you know. That's kind of how it is whenever you truly like get this in your blood, you know, or you like it becomes a part of you, like you're going to come back to it. You know, it's kind of like that. And I was trying to teach some of that stuff like you're talking about. I'm a part-time youth minister, and the other night, you know, school's fixing to start across the country, you know, and then we took all of our junior high and high school students to campus and like walked around and talked about different stages in life, you know. And we talked about the same thing you talked about, where like high school, like that time period is really when you're figuring out who you are going to be the rest of your life, pretty much, you know. And I think it's important, like, not only for us to like look back and remember that, but also like be able to spread that message to, you know, people who are going through that, you know, because I can remember being that age and like I didn't really think about the choices or decisions I was making, you know, at that point in time.
Yeah, we talked about how, I think it was yesterday. It's been such a long day. There's
barely sleep involved in there.
There was barely. But we talked about how, you know, like my dad was telling how like people don't change most of the time. You know, there's very few people that actually change who they are once they get out of high school, or say. And so like, you know, he's like, I may go and hang out with all my high school or college buddies nowadays, and it's like some guy does something and you're like, that's exactly what you did when you were 17 years old. You know, like you haven't changed a bit. And so it is, I mean, I guess in most cases it would be important that you learn certain things in that high school or junior high age even, you know. It's very important. But one thing, you know, like I guess as a hunter or as a person who identifies as a hunter, is this not like the greatest place to live on earth?
It's not too bad. I'm not going to lie. I feel like, you know, I pinch myself every day, you know, and, you know, I've lived out west and I've lived in the east, and it's just a beautiful area of country, and where Bozeman, where Sitka's born at. I mean, what's cool about, I think what Sitka has done is it was born with kind of like the mountain sports mentality. So when Jonathan Hart founded this, the way that he was looking at it is it could be so much better than what's out there. So if you take the perspective of like somebody that's doing alpinist type work, or they're approaching, you know, that type of a sport, but you bring that to the hunting category, you can do that. So whether it is big game hunting, you know, where maybe you're going up a mountain, or if you're going to the whitetail woods, you still have to think about moisture management and how you're going to be comfortable. And so that's what's kind of neat about that, is we look at it with that same lens. So, you know, our type of hunting sport that we're doing in the whitetail woods, where big game, maybe you're doing like it's high aerobic and it stays high aerobic, right? We're going to have actually a high aerobic section of hunting. And then when we're going to maybe move to the stand, or we're walking in, or we're climbing up, or we're setting a stand, but then we're going to be in a stagnant sit. So you may not be able to use your body heat as actively to be able to push out that moisture. And so that's kind of the lens that when I look at designing product is how is I going to make it for people that are sitting in that type of position when they're hunting whitetails, usually from a tree stand. And then just from, the Bozeman area, there's so much types of hunting here. I mean, you can hunt whitetails here. You can hunt antelope. You can hunt elk. There's so much to do. And then you can go fishing for just about everything except bass.
Yeah. Well, we got that covered where we're at. We grew up in bass capital of the world pretty much.
We don't mind coming up here and missing out on bass. It's not that big of a deal.
That's what we did growing up. Yeah, we grew up on Lake Fork. But, I mean, is Bozeman, is the style of whitetail hunting around here, is it something, can you get the experience that you need hunting them in a certain way to learn, like, what you need from a product development standpoint? So, for us, obviously there's a lot of public land here, So, I mean, I would think that you could. But for us, a lot of times we're walking in, we hunt a lot of public land. And there's not a lot in Texas, so we have to squeeze in somewhere. But we're walking in a long distance usually because of that, And so you get sweaty on the way in. Doesn't matter if you're just wearing nothing. Basically, you can walk in a loincloth. But then you get into the stand and you got to manage that temperature as your body starts to cool down and all that. Are you able to get certain different styles here that you can test the gear here, or are you relying on going places or having field correspondence or whatever it may be?
The approach I take is there's you can take a certain aspect here, but I spend a lot of time traveling. So hunting whitetails here is not like hunting whitetails maybe in the Midwest or in the South or in even Texas. So I do have to go to those different places, and I like to put myself in some different situations. I'll do things that I typically wouldn't do just to learn a little something, but then I also use a network of field testers that are all over the country. I mean, we have quite a few, and I'll send stuff out to them to get a balanced opinion when I'm developing products. So there's some really great advantages because we can get some great cold weather here fairly early, and so that's something that you can't get elsewhere. But if you want to go to a hot, buggy environment, I'm going to take a trip down to the south, like to Florida or something along those lines, and I'm going to put myself in that situation, which may be on the extreme edge of what you experience, but it's the worst of the worst. So it's like where could be the most miserable place I could go, and let's try and do this and see what we learn from that. And that's all part of the process.
Is that a drag ever when you go and do something? I know you're hunting, you know what I'm saying? But is it ever about day 3, you're like, man, this is brutal,
I could lie and say yes, but I'm very lucky to be in the position I am. I mean, yes, you'll be tired. You're burning the candle on both ends. Yeah. I never lose that fun and that energy. We were talking a little bit about it earlier, but the trip to Florida, hunting in the Everglades and, for white-tailed deer in July, you would be like, this is, that was probably the most miserable place. And I was miserable. I was miserable, but I was totally content being miserable.
Right.
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
Is it mosquitoes, or what's the worst bug there that you had to deal with?
The mosquitoes are absolutely the worst bug that are there. So it's kind of funny when you're down there, and we used Thermacells when we were down there, and that did help. But it's kind of as the sun sets, and you can hear that really high pitched.
Oh, the woods.
But when the whole I'm from the South, and but this was a whole new level. I was sitting in my looking around, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really bad.
The gray cloud is coming, right?
And it's and they're huge, and they're just all over. And it was. I mean, in every inch. So we were down there with Mike Massey, and he was talking about, and he's pretty used to it. But it's just every inch of what was down there was 1 inch to 24 inches of water, and then these little dry patch of hammocks that were a couple hundred yards long. But I mean, you just think like if you were talking about the ideal breeding ground for a mosquito, like every inch of that place is. And, it's hot. As soon as you step outside, you're sweating. I mean, there's nothing I don't care if you went out there in your underwear, you're going to step out the door and you're going to be like, okay, I've been in the shower. And that's, so when we were down there with a new early season whitetail, it was more about like managing your comfort level, to be able to make you as comfortable as you could possibly be in that environment, because there's no way you're not going to be sweating. I mean, if there's no apparel in the world that's not going to make you sweat. So how's it going to be able to manage that moisture? And basically, because you'd get up and then you'd sit and then just a little bit of that breeze, and then you'd be soaking wet and then you'd start to dry out. And that was what was really neat to see, as best as you could dry out down there.
You obviously are probably as hard on the gear as far as scrutiny as you could probably be, and is the early season whitetail gear, is it geared towards any kind of bug protection at all, or is it mainly, odor or sweat protection kind of thing? Or
it's mainly managed towards like your temperature setting.
Okay.
What I would recommend is, if you're looking for bug protection, there's not much better than, in my opinion, taking a thermocell and setting it beside you, or there's a little bit of scent that goes with that, but if you manage the wind in the right way, I think it's good. And that was pretty effective.
The worst hunt I ever have been on was like mid-September in Kansas, and I sat over the top of that sounds terrible. It sounds like, well, it's Kansas, there's nothing there. But we were sitting on top of a little spring pond, and it was maybe twice the size of this room right here. And I had never dealt with no-see-ums really until then.
Oh, they're awful.
It was I'm telling you, like I'm sitting here going, there's a big deer that's been coming through here, Like I have a good chance of maybe shooting this deer. And hour left in the sun, and with the sun going down, I was like, I had a T-shirt on, and I ducked my head into my T-shirt and pulled my arms in and just sat there. I would sit there like this for like 10 minutes at a time, and then I would peek out and then go back in. It was the most miserable thing that I've ever done.
I bet it was like right when the sun was either coming up or going down.
Going down, yeah.
Going down. So there's like that 30-minute window where those things come out.
Yeah.
And they are brutal.
You can't see them, and then all of a sudden your arm just hurts like fire,
Yep.
Terrible.
Tiny little animals.
Does it ever get old? So I would imagine in your position, you're always trying to push things to the limits. That means you got to go on a bunch of hunts that are on the limits, do you get like a fun hunt that's just like the real, mediocre weather kind of thing that you do every year just to kind of like have a vacation from the tough stuff?
Yeah, I had some hunts that, weren't the end of the world. But I mean, in the past 12 months, for example, I've had the extreme of hunting with Jim Hole in the bow zone in Alberta, and that's like negative 15 degrees. And, I can show you a picture on my phone of, you can see like little ice crystals developing all over my site, and, and then going all the way down to Florida where it's 95. But, every once in a while, there's just days in the middle, even when you go in the extremes, that are just going to be like a normal day. And you might be going with like a customer where you're just doing brainstorming ideas, and those situations, you do stumble across those.
Yeah.
But
well, I'll tell you, if you're looking for one, there's a culture in Texas where they like to just drive down senderos in South Texas, and honestly, whether you're sitting in a stand or driving down a high lift or with a high lift, down a sendero, South Texas in December is hard to beat.
Man.
I mean, it's pretty cold in the mornings for us. It's chilly, not for probably both of the nights.
40, right?
Yeah. And so, but then, in the middle of the day, like you could sit in your underwear around the campfire, or not the campfire, but, around the camp, and it's a pretty nice hunt. There's Texans know how to take it easy. And I kind of debate this in my mind, at least. And I talk to Casey about this a lot, but, like sometimes I feel like that it's good to push yourself, and it's good to see what you're made of. It's good to learn things through those experiences. But sometimes I feel like hunting should be fun as well, and so you have to, like we do a lot of tactics on the podcast, how to kill this deer, how to set up on this deer. They use wind and scents and whatever you might be doing, and obviously you want to see deer while you're out there, and you want to be in the right spot, but sometimes getting out and sit in the woods on a nice evening when it's 50 and you're comfortable and there's no bugs and you can just sit there and kind of meditate or whatever you do. And I mean, that's fun too,
I think it's recharging too.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you go, if you're not having fun, and I've talked to people, when we talk about the hunts that we do, and they're like, "That sounds awful," and you're like, "But for me, this is a part of my job." So even when I do those hunts, I'm still like always working. So for me, I'm out there and I can't help it. It's like part of my personal passion is developing products. So even if I'm like running out, like last week I was hunting antelope. That was for me, here, and I'm trying to learn that game since moving out here. But at the same time, I'm bringing gear with me that I'm working on just to like see, because you can always be learning something. But as long as you're having fun, that's what really matters. Because when you go out there, that's part of why we're out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not doing it because it's something
we have
don't
to go
like.
get meat or whatever. We could buy it, I agree totally. And I think that we have to be careful sometimes because, especially as media, I see people talking about the grind. We've talked about that before.
Really?
It's like, I mean, sometimes it's tough, but, man, like it's such a cool deal to just be out there and have this ability to hunt and not be in Europe or somewhere where you can't really go hunting unless you have a lot of money or whatever it might be. And it's just sometimes I feel like some people think of it as something that's hard, and I'm always a big advocate for if it gets to where it's drudgery, take the morning off, you know what I'm saying, and go out that afternoon. And we did that after Brennan killed his bull last year, and it was just like when you do that and you kind of recharge, it's like you're ready to go, and you got the next 3 or 4 days or whatever it might be, and you're just ready to go. So I definitely believe in that kind of stuff.
And the guys that are really good, at getting really mature whitetails, they'll focus on those key days. And that's one of the things that as you talk, I spend more and more time talking to people that if that's the game that they're into, you can be, I think it can be like, I like to be outdoors and I like to go hunting, I want to fill the freezer. That's one aspect. And then there's I'm chasing mature whitetails. And then there's like, I'm chasing mature whitetails on public land.
Sure.
And that's like a whole nother level. But when you're doing those types of things, they're focusing on the days that they're going to be most effective. So, and there's all the work that leads up to that too. I think that's where really it's not, you just went out those couple of days and went hunting. It's like there was the other 50 days that you spent prepping.
It's the lifestyle. It's being a hunter. It's not just hunting.
That's what I started.
Talked about.
I started calling myself an experience hunter. Like I'm not a meat hunter. Like I can go to the grocery store and buy chicken. I do it every once in a while. And I'm not a trophy hunter because I'll shoot something smaller if I need to. Like when I'm going to Colorado in September, I'm shooting the first elk I get a chance to because I enjoy the experience. And that's just kind of part of that experience that we're talking about. Like I don't think that it would have meant as much to him and I to go up to the Midwest and shoot a big mature buck on public land if I hadn't worked hard for it. If and it's okay to do this, but like for me, if an outfitter put us on that deer, it wouldn't mean the same to me. Or you take it at another level, which our great state of Texas is known for. If the deer's got an ear tag, it really doesn't mean much to me. And it's not really my kind of thing. So chasing that experience like you're talking about and having a little bit of that struggle is like important to me. It's almost vital. I don't really want to go on a hunt that I'm comfortable all the time, because I feel like where I have discomfort, it's where I learn things about myself and where I become a better hunter.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like I like hunting with different people too and watching the different approaches.
Yeah.
You can learn something new from, people that they can be young, old, doesn't matter, tons of years of experience or taking a new approach. But it's fun to actually like sit and like go with different people and watch and say, oh, I have never thought of doing that. And, you know, that's one of the really interesting things that, you know, if you go with different people, you see the different approaches people take and how they develop a system that works for them.
I have a friend, Cody.
Yeah.
He's got his own system, and it doesn't make sense to me sometimes, you know, but like it works pretty well for him. And it's funny how something totally foreign to you or that seems so, you know, that's not going to work, you know, and it does, you know. So you're hitting it on the head there. Why? Okay, so whitetail are the king species. You know, a lot of people have access to hunt whitetail. It's been, you know, the most hunted game animal in North America for some time. I don't know how long, I'm sure. What makes them not boring or cliche at this point in hunting media and the pursuit?
Yeah, it's one of those animals, if they're, you know, open and free range, it's like the one animal you can't, I feel like, just go by. Like if you were into like the outfitter thing, like there's like, they're savvy. They, you know, their sense of smell is really good. You know, the old ones are mature for a reason. And so that's one of the things that's interesting about hunting them is they're accessible. You know, a lot of people, they're maybe less intimidating for people to be able to go try if they're just getting into the hunting world. And, you know, it can be really challenging if you're going after a certain type of animal, and then it also can be really accessible for maybe somebody that just wants to go out and maybe take the first year with a doe or something along those lines. I think that's one of the great things about whitetail is there's so many of them. There's so many places they cover. I mean, there's tons of them here, right where we are standing now, and then you can go all the way, you know, to the northeast or the southeast or Texas, and there's tons of them down there too as well. And they're a unique animal. They
are, for sure. And you kind of summed up my season last year, or our season. You know, we hunt together, and you know, he was as excited for me to shoot that deer as I was. You know, but we went and hunted does in early October on a permission property that we had. Only permission to hunt does on. And so I go out there and, you know, 2 hunts, I shoot a doe. And, you know, not super challenging for me. But then on public land in Texas, chasing 3.5, 4-year-old bucks all season long, I didn't actually have an opportunity to shoot at one all year. You know, and that's, like I said, the caliber, the different deer. And so you can kind of set your levels at whatever experience you're after, or whatever experience your level you're at. You can set your levels, you know. And this dude right here passed good deer on public land. So, you know, it's a whole different, you can do however you want to. And I think that you made a good point there. It's kind of so personal, but at the same time relatable to other people because almost everybody has a chance to shoot a whitetail somewhere in the U.S. You know.
Yeah, we have a spot. Like I like to put like a doe in the freezer, you know, towards the beginning of the season, and you know we've got a place down here we can go. It's a green field, and they pile in. I just call it. I mean, I'm going grocery shopping. Yeah, sure. And like literally, I know I'm going to be able to take one probably that afternoon, but that I have a specific goal in mind. I'm going to go fill the freezer, whereas maybe somewhere else I'm going to accomplish a different mission. But that's part of like what we do is we put food in the freezer to, you know, I buy very little beef.
Right.
You know, it's all venison or some other game animal inside of my deep freezer.
No kidding. If I'm privileged enough to kill an elk, that's definitely, I'm not buying any beef, you know. Like that's you know, I love to eat whitetail too, but you know, it's something about them. But you know, it's just and it's cool to get that. Like, it's fulfilling as a hunter to like, you know, we talk about like we're not meat hunters, right? Like it's not something we have to do, but like it is very fulfilling to go out and accomplish bringing that home, you know. And there's something to that. Like there's something to like the I guess primal nature of providing meat for your family and your friends, you know, and it feels good and it feels right.
Yeah, my kids have been watching me too. Like I've always processed my own game. Like I can count on one hand the number of deer I've taken into a processor to get processed because I always do it myself. But I mean, at 2 and 3 years old, my kids were standing out there by me, watching me, you know, clean the deer, and they know where this is coming from. And I think that's super important because there's so many people that don't really understand where this comes from. And then also we talk about, sharing your meat. Like one of the best things we can do just as hunters, I feel like, is if you get meat, find somebody that maybe is open to it but hasn't had venison, either serve that meal for them or have them over and have that venison, or give them to them and maybe give them a recipe and say, hey, you're cooking or you're good at, if they're a good cook and they know how to do it. But it's so funny the number of people you get to actually eat something that you've made and they're like, holy smokes, this is delicious. And I didn't even realize how good it could taste.
It's absolutely true. If you follow a good recipe that's built for deer or wild game, if you do it exactly to a T, it's probably going to taste pretty awesome. You know what I'm saying? So like I've got a couple of cookbooks, and I threw something together the other night based out of the cookbook, and I was like, man, I'm just going to try it. I don't know if I'm going to like this or not. And I was telling KC, he was making fun of me because it probably didn't look good, but it tasted really good. And it's really when you follow the steps, it can be really good. Obviously, when you start looking at steaks or backstrap and trying to do that stuff on the grill, maybe take a little more expertise to get it that medium rare or whatever you might want it, or whatever. Cassie.
Well, me and my wife are polar opposites. I eat it raw almost, my wife likes it well done, so it's kind of tough. But,
it's a constant marriage struggle. Yes. That's the real thing. I am destroying this. How can you even eat this? This is disgusting.
She might not listen to this, so I'll go ahead and tell you this. The other evening, she had a headache. My wife kind of has headaches every once in a while, and we had to eat with the lights off because they were hurting her eyes. I cooked the meat medium rare, and she's like, this is the best deer I've ever eaten, because she couldn't see that it was pink, and she had no idea. It's all middle, man.
You've taught me something I've never even thought of accomplishing, but now I'm going to have to get there.
Try it, man. Just be like, hey, we're going to have a romantic dinner tonight, just candle on the table. And
that candle's going to be 10 feet away.
That's right. We're not lighting anything up.
But you speak to something cool. Like, if you look at, like, native cultures, the processing, take Inuit cultures, the processing is a huge part of like the village or the family setup, right? Like, somebody goes out, brings home an animal, and it's like a part of the bonding, and it's what keeps them as a whole, and then they all share that meal. And it's really something, I'm always thinking about things that we're losing as hunters, because we're losing hunter numbers, so we're not doing something right. We kind of all know that. We're all trying to, make stabs at how we're going to fix it. And I think we're doing what we can, but, we can always learn. And I think that's making it more holistic like that, I think could be a big part of it. If you're teaching your kids at a young age where meat comes from, then they're going to want to have their own meat, as opposed to take somebody else's from the grocery store, and it's kind of a thing. Like I said, I'm just always looking for what we're losing, and I don't want to lose that part of it. I'm going to let my kids. I don't have kids yet. I'm learning from you guys, but
they'll teach you as soon as they come out.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to make my kids do anything. But I feel strongly that they're going to want to do what I do, because I have a passion for it, and so I need to make sure that I pass that passion on in the right way. And it's kind of essential, and it's cool to hear, 2 and 3 years old, like they're understanding. Therefore, there's no like room for, oh, this is gross. You know what I mean? Like it's just because it's inert. You
learn it's gross, right? Like that's a learned thing. Because when they were Inuits running around as little kids, a couple hundred years ago, it was not gross. Mm-hmm. It was food, So it is a learned thing. So are you going to learn it this way, or you're going to learn it that way? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So what's your meal? What's your favorite thing to do?
With venison?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I'd say I have it's kind of like a fancy one, but I like to just grill it and wrap it in bacon. And that's
You did that the other day.
You can't go wrong with that, I feel, right?
It's fast,
some Dale
too.
sauce and mixed, it's really good. But then I also have one that's my fancy one. If I want to so it's you take brandy and you light it on fire and you're cooking it. It's legit, and it's so good. It's like a mushroom caper sauce, and it's I really like that one. So if I'm if if I like want to show off, like not that we never do that, but I get to light the pan on fire, and we're guys. We're like, fire! It's awesome. Yeah. So that one's fun for me. So I like to do that one.
That's awesome. I need to try that one. You might have to send that one to me.
I'll snap a photo of it and text
I'm
it to you later.
Because I haven't come across a light this steak on fire recipe yet.
So anything with fire, big flames is so much better.
I'm a pyro.
And it's even better because it's indoors. So when you're doing that portion of it, it's
exactly.
like, this is like, I could really like cause damage.
So product development and pyrotechnics is kind of like your thing, right?
No kidding. What's if you could go back and do only one whitetail hunt that you've already done and repeat that one, that's the only one you can repeat that you've done, what would that be?
I'd have to say, I guess my first one in Georgia. I mean, just trying to look back at that and what I was doing, like that experience and the newness of it, I think is really kind of neat. Just being an early teenager and that much excitement having. I remember the first deer I shot was like, I was pretty high up in a tree stand and a climber, that's what I was using then, was like a climber, and it was pretty windy, and it was a decently long shot, but I shot so much that I was probably better then than I am now. And taking, it was a doe, but it was my first deer, but that level of excitement is kind of neat to be able to go back and like relive it is kind of a neat thing, and that's why I'm so excited about going this year with my son, because I think I'm going to see some of that same stuff that I can sort of remember.
Yes. Yep.
But that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I talk about this with him a lot, but I've always been into video for a long time, since I was I think for Christmas when I was 13, I wanted a Sony Handycam. That was like the only thing I wanted. It's like, you don't have to give me anything else. And so I've been into it for a long time. But, it is sometimes it's debilitating or a hassle to carry a bunch of equipment in there and try to record your hunt, But I don't have a great memory. And so I love being able to go back and watch a hunt from 2 years ago and go, man, that's what I felt like during that hunt. I can remember it now, because I can see how my emotions on my face and, this and that. So that's one reason that I enjoy that. And I can only imagine when my son starts hunting how, like you said, it would be, I could imagine that would happen. It'd be like a little me again, learning to how this all works. And I can remember the first year I shot, I haven't been that excited since. I mean, and I get juiced up, I mean, you watched me, probably saw some of me acting
You
insane.
can see it, though. But that's why we're doing it. I can tell you where I would not want to go again real quickly is South Florida.
Well, that makes my decision about that state a little bit easier.
Everybody should do it once.
I think,
and the key
I
is
feel
once.
like that. One time. I feel like that's something I would like to do. I mean, just for the unique opportunity of hunting in July, whitetails that are hard-horned. I mean, it's pretty cool, but I don't see my odds of harvest being very high. I don't know. It just seems like it'd be hard to kill deer down there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could. Depending, we had a lot of guys, so we were pressuring the property pretty heavily right off the bat, and so. But I think, if you went down there, it's just, but you're going to harvest something like. It's going to be probably, if you cross 100 inches, you're doing something special. So, but it's a neat experience, and I think it's like that's one of the things is like to try things that are actually kind of off base and a little bit different than most people think. Like that's an experience hunt,
right?
And what we were doing down there with Mike and those guys it was a true experience, and like hanging out in the camp with that crew was a lot. That was like half the fun.
See, that's another thing. I'll talk about what we miss, or what we're losing as hunters.
Yeah,
we've become such like a solo culture, know. And like deer camp, you talk about this a lot. Like used to, you'd go out hunt in the mornings and come back and everybody told stories all day. You sat around a fire, had a good lunch or whatever, You just don't have that deer camp mentality a whole lot anymore.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's like growing up, like where I'm from, that's everybody has their lease and then they have the camp, right? Mm-hmm. The deer camp. And I've got a pretty funny story about deer camp when I was younger. It involved fire and deer camp. So that's why I bring this up. So, you have cleaning day, right? Mm-hmm. It's like prep day and everybody goes down there. And so we were down there at my buddy's Matt's, who I started with, and we're sweeping up. And I don't know which one of us was sweeping, but one of us was sweeping up out of the cabin. And, it would go into the thing. We have the fire where we're burning up all the junk that you just need to get rid of. Somebody took that and dumped that in, but there were 22 shells that were somehow in this. And I remember sitting there, and all of a sudden, like, they popped, and everybody kind of looked. And then all of a sudden, it was like mass pandemonium. Everybody running over, like shell casings flying out, and like it was like people were ducking and covering. It was one of the funniest moments, where after it finally ended, everybody's laughing, but
nobody died, and it's really funny at that point.
Yeah, so apparently somebody didn't manage their ammunition too well in that camp. So I can't blame myself. I was only a teenager.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's funny, man. We've got some good stories too, and that I think it kind of circles around to what I was saying earlier about like. At some point, you need to challenge yourself, and maybe you do need to go on a solo hunt and this and that. But there's also there's a whole other culture that I feel like guys are missing out on when they just think, I'm going to go do this public land solo hunt and try to kill the baddest bull in the woods or whatever. It's a good challenge, a great challenge. But I think that our culture maybe doesn't quite value the culture that is built around deer camp as much these days, and it's kind of saddens me to see. I'm not that old, I don't feel like, so and I don't mean to sound like an old timer or anything, but man, we had some fun times at deer camp, and you kind of, me and him have fun times in the tree. But
yeah, we've talked about getting cameramen, for a little bit for this season or whatever, but I don't want to, be weird about this, but I don't want to lose our time in the stand together, because it's so much fun.
We spooked deer just laughing our heads off. It's just, sorry, like, this is fun, That's a funny joke you just said there, whatever.
Yeah, no kidding.
So usually when you go with the camps too, if anybody starts not that we don't text in the stand, but when somebody starts that text thread with everybody that's in camp, and then like you're reading it, and then somebody sends that message, and then even if you're alone, you start laughing, you're like, oh, you just messed up my hunt.
Exactly.
That was too funny.
Yeah. So we talked about the Florida and the hot weather and how you design things to manage, sweat and things like that. But what about the cold side of things? How are you working to battle that for whitetail hunters? Because we get cold. We're from Texas. Like, if it's below 30, it's something we talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how many Fanatic suits we sell, like in the South. But I always say cold is relative. So you might be a cold-natured person. You might be a hot-natured person. But managing it based off how you feel is important. So you have to build a system that's right for you. But we always talk about, building foundations with kids and all that type of stuff, so that they have a good foundation in life. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to your system. You want to set your foundation so you can manage your moisture. So a lot of people would think, oh, it's cold, I don't want to start with a lightweight base layer. Well, that's exactly what you should do. So you want to take something like a really lightweight synthetic or a wool base layer, put that on your body, and depending on whether wool or synthetic, that depends on the user, and you can try that different experiment and figure out what works for you. But that foundation is what you're setting to manage the moisture. Then you're going to take and put insulation on top of that. So that might be like taking a core heavyweight like we have, or taking something like the Fanatic hoodie, which is, it's going to have like a fleecy backer, or it's going to be like something like the Celsius midi that you're layering on, that has insulation. And then you look at your outer layer, and then you're going to add that for depending on what the weather is. So that if it's really cold, it might be the Fanatic, or it might be the incinerator, or if it's maybe something you want, it's going to be as cold, you can take the Stratus. But then, like, for example, like the Stratus, you could just take over the one layer when it's not that cold, but it's a little bit windy, but then start to add insulation under it to get you through the rest of the season. And that's how you build your system. And then, so that's like, I break it down into three things. So you set the foundation, which is your base layer. You add insulation and outer layers when you are in the stand, basically for the static sit. But then also there's this idea of preparing for the commute. That's going to and from the stand. So don't just like put everything on that you have and then go out there. Like when I was in Alberta and it was below zero, like literally I'll take my layers that I have, I'll vent the legs in my Fanatic bibs, but I'll literally be walking out and going and doing all the movements, like climbing up in my stand in like a Fanatic hoodie. It's like below zero, but then I'll get up there and I'll climb into the stand and I'll spend 15 minutes getting my body temperature right. And then I'll add the layer for in the morning for insulation. So if you're ever climbing up and you see that drip of sweat come off your nose, you're like, you're in for something. And if you do get yourself in that situation, you want a system that can move the moisture out of that. And I've talked to some people that's like, oh, I just want to buy the Stratus and put this on my body, but I'm going to wear my jeans under that. And that's the worst thing you can do is put cotton under there. So that's the one thing I would say to people, take home from that is, make sure that you're building your layering system that's right for you, and think of it as investment. So we spend a lot of money on like our weapons, right? I'll shell out like $2,000 on my bow and, or I'll, spend a certain amount on my, my rifle and my optics and all that type of stuff. But that's going to be something that I'm using for like just the moment. And you want to have something that allows you to get the job done. But that is like 5 seconds probably of what you're going to be doing. And every day you're sitting in that stand, if you're not comfortable, you can't be as effective. So, you can sit longer if you want to. If it's a rut, you can sit all day. And I think that's you have to think of everything you're doing as an investment in my comfort and my effectiveness in the stand for when I'm hunting. And so our stuff it costs money. I mean, it's not inexpensive stuff, but we put a lot into developing the products, into the textiles, into what we're using to make sure that everything we're doing is allowing the hunter to be able to be more effective. We have a big thing around fit for use. So basically everything we have, we won't just take something for the big game line and put it in the whitetail line. And we're like, that's done. Let's select the E82 pattern. Like that doesn't work. The waterfowl stuff, they don't care about quiet. We do. Guys that hunt waterfowl want waterproof. They want super durable. And there's, a whitetail mentality is way different than that. And you have to be, if you want to be effective, you can't put something really noisy on and expect to be able to move around in close engagement distances, which is typically within 40 yards. So,
And so you guys also take that painstaking attention to detail. I feel like, and you don't just put it into gear or making money, but as a company, you guys are involved in pretty heavily in the conservation side of things, and we're here for the TRCP Media Summit. And you guys are a major sponsor and sending representatives to the Media Summit. And, I know I can speak for KC on this. I feel like we wear Sitka because of the dedication to the animal, the species or whatever, that we're pursuing. And that's a big deal for us. We feel strongly about that personally. And so I know you're not the conservation guy, but we're talking whitetails today. I can see why we need to help conserve sheep species and put more sheep on the mountain. And this, these kind of things. They're a little bit more of a fragile species. They've got a little less adaptability to certain climates and that kind of thing. Elk, maybe the same way. Mule deer are on the decline. I can understand that, but with whitetail, we definitely have diseases that are scary in the future, but they are flourishing right now. I feel like, and they're, in some cases, they're almost a nuisance in some areas, So why is it important why is Sitka involved so heavily in the conservation side of things, and why do you feel like that's important as the whitetail brand, from the whitetail brand perspective to conserve whitetails, and what are we doing about that?
Yeah, the way we look at it is just because it may be as good right now doesn't mean that's going to be great down the road if people aren't actively working to conserve and protect and be a part of that ecosystem. We're all tied together to the land in some way, like it or not. Like whether or not you're super conservative, you're super liberal, whatever that may be, you're going to be. We're all tied to the land in some way, and we all care about protecting it. So, kind of looking for those common grounds on what we all agree on, and I think the fact that you can't just take it for granted. You have to be a participating member or a participating part of protecting what we have. It's also say that it's not like a guaranteed right that we have to hunt.
Yeah.
That's like something that we all have to work to protect. So, there's a lot of reasons for hunting, and there's a lot of reasons for managing whitetails the right way, population control, all the quality deer management, all that type of stuff that we do. But, regardless, we have a responsibility. We all do. We do as a company, and then anybody that's involved in the sport has a responsibility to help protect it and also, make sure that's here for the kids that we're talking about in the future and their kids. And that's, as the population grows, it's going to continue to be a problem. And we have to figure out, we have to be participating in how to come up with solutions. There's always challenges in life, that's guaranteed. So we have to be a part of the solution.
Right. Well, I appreciate your time. Yeah. I know you're a busy guy. Thanks for doing this with us.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys coming by. And
sure.
It's great to meet with you guys.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Man, I just can't wait till we have to use layers.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that'd be great. Right now, I'm trying to, mitigate my layers to where I have the least amount on as possible.
I like to have no layers on.
In fact, that is a good day. As long as there's no mosquitoes, no layers is the way to fly around here. Yeah. But you're not very concealed because I'm pretty white up underneath my shirt these days. Bro. This is not the old days where I tanned it up. But, no, for real, I think that from Chris, we can learn a lot about layering systems. And we hunt a lot of public land. We have a lot of long walk-ins where we pretty much succumb to the fact that we are going to sweat. It's going to happen no matter how cold it is, what time of day it is, or whatever. You're going to end up sweating when you're carrying in 50 pounds of stand, camera gear, and all that. So you have to figure out how to deal with that sweat and how to manage that moisture. And I think that, having the proper base layers and, actually putting some thought into what you wear as opposed to just I'm just going to get out of the truck in my warm stuff and go, can really make a difference.
Oh, for sure. I know it did for us several times last year.
I remember, though, dude, there were some mornings at TR when it was so cold I did not want to get out of the truck because I knew I had to walk in hardly nothing. It was freezing.
We need to figure out how to, get all of our gear ready to basically just strap it on and walk. Because especially me, but I had a lot of camera gear, but we would stand at that truck for 10 minutes trying to get all our gear together. And when it's cold, you're I don't want to put a jacket on because I really need to strap it to the back of my backpack. But if you had everything strapped and ready to go and know that it's not going to blow out of the back of the truck or whatever, then you could.
We just got to buy a Mini.
I think that's what we need. I think that's what we need. We figured that out.
We figured out in Bozeman. A minivan is the ultimate hunting rig. If we had a minivan, we could just walk to the back, wave our foot underneath the bumper, make the door come up, and grab our packs and go, dude.
Throw a soccer ball up in there.
That's it, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I just I think if we can get out and basically put on our stuff and rock and roll pretty quick, like you'll warm up really quickly before you've even cooled off,
Yeah.
But I think that was one issue that probably was caused mainly by me last year.
Well, there's another issue is that normally nature calls about the time you pull up to where you're going to go hunt.
Especially on a long drive to public land.
Yeah, and so like there's this whole like heat management whenever you're trying to use the bathroom and stripping your layers off.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's an answer for that.
Dude, it's kind of a rough life, man, doing walk-ins in the morning,
It is.
But I don't know. It's a lot of fun, and I'm just ready, man. I'm so ready. I can't wait to. And one thing, speaking of long walks, we need to get some trail cameras checked because there's been some trail cameras out for a while now that have not been checked.
What time is it? I think I'm going to try to do one tonight, actually.
7 o'clock.
It is time for me to do that pretty soon. So I'm going to go into my permission property, Sweat Equity, and go check that out because I got a little report today that someone saw a toad about
90s?
a mile from there.
In the 90s?
In the 90s? No. There was a toad in the 90s, supposedly, too. But,
there's always a toad in the 90s.
Oh, dude.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean.
Like, something about the 90s was just a good decade.
That was, man.
I was glad to grow up during
good
those.
deer years. But, no, like, on the hoof this weekend, toad over there. Which
Pretty
I don't
close.
know. Yeah, I don't know what that means, but they're like, man, it's a big one,
Well,
but I would like to see a great 3-year-old over there,
there you go. Yeah.
Not saying I'm going to shoot him, but it's good to know that like people are seeing good deer in that area.
Well, we checked cameras your camera from that area over there, and there was a good little bachelor group over there. I wouldn't say any shooters, right? But
but what we've learned about bachelor groups is they can like pick up a mature buck here and there and then lose him. I think maybe he gets cantankerous and just sits down lays down one day and everybody else goes away. But
that's a good word.
Yeah, I think that if keep tabs on over there, and I'll also, if I have enough time, I'm going to go open up scrapes while I'm there.
Yeah, I want to do that soon too.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day, and I didn't have time. We started getting rained on when I was re-upping my batteries and my camera and everything.
It seems that September 1st is like the transition to hardhorn. It started because a lot of my friends are sending me pictures of bucks like, I can't believe he's already hardhorned. But if I've seen that 6 or 7 different times, then that's the time it's happening.
I've always noticed it, in Kansas in the first week of September, anywhere from the 1st to the 7th or whatever, seems to be. But, yeah, dude, I'm ready. I mean, we got some stuff like the little mud hole that we put a trail camera on a while back. There's going to be some good stuff on that.
Yeah, there will be good stuff on that.
Yeah, so that's exciting. I'm ready to go do that stuff, and hopefully we will get out and do that maybe this weekend. And if we do, you guys can be looking for a PLC next week. And if we don't, then you're just going to have to keep watching Nameless over and over again.
I'm going to do that, so it's fine.
So don't forget, though, there's that contest going on. It's comment on YouTube and have a chance at Exodus Trek trail camera, and share on Facebook for a chance at Onyx Premium membership. And thank you guys for all the feedback again, man. We really appreciate it. God bless you guys, and remember, this is your element.
Live in it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live, headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon, and May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.